Welcome to the Burn with Ryan Van Dever, presented to you by Hot Zone Sports. The information you need to know, built with you in mind, for the people, by the people, and with the people. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. What you waiting on? Today, we're going to be talking about the Colts-Texans game. And we're going to be talking about the rookie quarterbacks. How did they do in week 1? And we're going to do a little snippet with Notre Dame. Yep, it's coming. Studs and duds for the Indianapolis Colts. Stud, Alec Pierce. Now this one, he actually surprised me. He got me in this first game. Because as progression comes, it hasn't really been there since he's been drafted. He's been a very one-dimensional player. All he can do is run streak patterns. He's not a great route runner, but he's got speed. But the deep ball was back. The deep ball was back in full effect in this game. And boy, if there's one thing that could be said about this game, Anthony Richardson has a cannon of an arm. And he is a human highlight reel. But there's a certain wide receiver that specializes in catching deep balls. And his name is Alec Pierce. Pierce had 2 receptions for over 50 yards, including a beautiful touchdown beating double coverage. He probably will get more than 5 to 6 targets a game in reality, but the ones that he will get the chance are more likely going to be home run hitters. The chemistry between him and Richardson is only going to improve as the season goes on, and Pierce has definitely gotten better between last year and this year. That is 100% apparent. Stud, Tyquan Lewis. Many may not know his name, but he is one of the beneficiaries to Samson Ebukam's injury. Tyquan Lewis, who played over 60% of the snaps on Sunday, and most of them, he was really consistent pest on Sunday, and he finished with a sack and added a quarterback hit. His snap share will probably remain consistent throughout the year if he keeps this sort of production up. So I will continue to look for Tyquan Lewis to build on that great start to the season. Next up, stud Nick Cross. Nick Cross is emerging as the starting safety alongside Julian Blackmon. A decision that many Colts fans did not foresee happening in the preseason. With the safety market the way it was, we were for sure going to believe that the Colts were going to pick up a safety, but that did not end up happening. The Colts ended up wanting to fix the position from within. Now, Cross had a team-high 14 combined tackles and was all over the field on Sunday. It's usually not a good thing when your safety racks up tackles like that, because it means that the opposing running backs were getting to the second level consistently. They were. But Cross was tidy stopping any major damage and cemented himself as a starter in the short term. Next up, stud Anthony Richardson. Yeah. While there were plenty of signs of rust and accuracy issues, the potential for greatness was much more evident. You can no longer go back to the preseason and say he's trash. You can see that there is plenty of potential here. This kid is special. And the fact that he makes plays like he did with so little experience This is his 5th game in the NFL, 26th game total from high school till now. Yeah, that's not a lot. Including that this is his first game back, officially, since shoulder injury. It just makes his prowess even greater. You can see that he has a knack for making big plays, and that, as a Colts fan, should excite you. When the Colts were down 20-9, you would have thought that the game was over, but that wasn't the case. Richardson led a drive, converted a 4th down, and led them to a touchdown. This guy is electric. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, he has accuracy issues, but many of those misses were due to receivers being in the wrong spot. And that's not a cop-out. That's just a fact. But he only attempted 19 passes. He also led the Colts in rushing with 53 yards. Yeah. Not proud of that statement. Now, when he's on the field, the Colts are in any game. As a Colts fan, it's felt like years since they've had a quarterback that could keep you in games. While there were spots in the game, particularly the first half, where there were struggles, you can see the magic. You can see the potential. The longer he can stay on the field and develop, the better he will progress and figure those small things out, like intermediate short passes. That's his major weakness right now. Or weaknesses, I should say. But we all saw how electric he can be making those big plays. Like that 60-yard pass to Alec Pierce. Let's just take a moment and just enjoy the beauty of that pass. This is not coming from a Colts fan. This is just a football fan in general. That was probably the most beautiful pass that I've seen in the past couple of years. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, Richardson, he had his miscues where he missed some passes, like missing A.D. Mitchell in the end zone a couple of times. But that is going to have to get cleaned up. I wasn't expecting Anthony Richardson to come out in the first game of the season and be a 65% passer. If you thought that that's the type of Anthony Richardson you were going to get, you might want to reevaluate things. Once again, I say, this is his 5th start in the NFL. He lost a lot of time last season when it came to developing as a passer. He should be ahead of the curve right now, this is what you're getting. As he continues to grow, he will continue to get more accurate and make better decisions. His composure in the game is what impressed me, though. You will notice that on that 60-yard pass to Alec Pierce, he stayed in the pocket even when the pocket was collapsing. And instead of escaping the pocket and trying to do something with his legs, he stayed in the pocket and ultimately completed a laser of a 60-yard touchdown. That right there in itself should make Colts fans extremely excited for the future. The only thing I am asking is for him to play an entire season. He will have his ups and downs because I still see him as a rookie quarterback. And just like rookie quarterbacks, they have their ups and downs too. But he will only reach consistency with playing time. So he needs to stay healthy. Do not keep taking those hits like that scramble where he was just trying to get in the end zone and he basically got sandwiched. You cannot be taking those hits. Yes, the touchdown was nice. Yes, we ended up being down by 2 points, but you cannot consistently take those hits. They're not sustainable. Not in the NFL. And the Colts, they didn't have the big playability last year with Minshew in there. Obviously. This offense could be lethal. The offensive line needs to be better opening up holes for Jonathan Taylor, though, because he was averaging like a 3-yard per carry clip, and you cannot do that. Yeah, duds. Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed. As a Colts fan, I can say this, but if you are going to talk all of that shit on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it, you better get on the field and back it up. And it was not backed up this game. That was embarrassing for the Colts linebacker duo. After the offseason that they've had, you would have expected them to play a lot better than they did. But after running their mouths all offseason long on their podcast show about how C.J. Stroud disrespected Indy, yeah, I know. I get it. But still, so you had to expect that they were going to come a little bit different come week 1. Franklin and Speed laid an egg and allowed Joe Mixon to run like crazy. Speed had the chance to make up for some of the damage with a tackle on 3rd down late in the game, but he completely whiffed, allowing Mixon to seal the game. This is really not the kind of start that they wanted, Colts fans wanted, or the Colts organization wanted, or both of them. Michael Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. got paid. All right? Anthony Richardson is not an accurate quarterback. So this is going to have to work themselves out. Anthony Richardson is not accurate on short or intermediate passes. And that is where Michael Pittman Jr. makes most of his money, or made most of his money last season. The number 1 receiver recently extended, started the year off with a mediocre showing at best. 4 catches on 8 targets for just 31 yards. Given how deep the Colts are at wide receiver, and Josh Downs didn't even play this game, the all-or-nothing results the team got on offense, I am going to say MPJ's stock is going down. And he is one of the duds of the week. Jonathan Taylor. I hate to do it. I got your jersey, buddy. But the Colts signed JT to an extension. And now entrusted him with the full bell cow role in the backfield, giving him 100% of the carries for all of the running backs. Not signing a veteran or drafting a rookie to share carries. So far, Taylor has not repaid that trust. And he looked pretty bad on Sunday, finishing the game with 48 yards on 16 carries. Let's hope the offensive line can open up a few more gaping holes for Anthony Richardson for Jonathan Taylor to run through on Sunday when they play the Packers. Dud. Jalen Jones. Jalen Jones got absolutely lit up on Sunday. It was almost like C.J. Stroud and company said, yeah, we're going to pick on you today. But this is not on Jalen Jones. This is on Chris Ballard. Ballard stubbornly bet on his own guys in the secondary. And while it seems to have worked thus far with Nick Cross, that is not the case with Jalen Jones, who consistently looked a step too slow in the passing game. Looked like he was a few steps behind, actually, especially when he was lined up against Nico. Now, the thing is, you can get away with this when you're facing average quarterbacks. But an elite quarterback like C.J. Stroud, he is going to expose you time and time again. And that was the case Sunday. Jalen Jones got massively exposed. The Colts are going to have to do something about this situation. I don't care how much Gus Bradley comes out and says, oh, the defense is going to be different when we play the Packers. Yeah, it is going to be different because you're playing Malik Willis, a career backup who was drafted to the Titans to be the starting quarterback and never developed because he's not that guy. So, yeah, the defense is going to be different. Yeah, we all know. Yeah, the Colts allowed over 200 yards on the ground. If I had to pinpoint a reason the Colts lost the game, it was because they allowed the Texans' new running back, Joe Mixon, to run rampant all over their asses for over 150 yards. Yeah, that's a 5-yard per carry clip. Houston as a whole finished with over 200 yards on the ground, something just simply inexcusable for a team whose main calling card was the ability to stop the run last year. Like, that was it. You could throw over the top, but the Colts would stop the run. Zaire Franklin and E.J. Speed made no impact in that game against the Texans whatsoever. And the discipline on the outside zone runs was non-existent. This may have been as a result of light boxes because the Colts were really worried about Stroud and his receiving core torching them through the air, but it's still inexcusable. The Colts' defensive line had 4 sacks and 10 quarterback hits. For all of the Colts' struggles in the run defense department, they tried to make it up with the pass rush. Stroud was under duress all game long as the Colts' defensive line was winning their one-on-one matchups, and Bradley did a good job creating pressure via shifts and blitzes. If the pass rush remains as productive, the unit will have a much easier time against worse passing offenses. The Packers. The Colts have 3 pass plays over 50 yards. Yes, we've already talked about this, but we're going to talk about it again. The return of Anthony Richardson meant the return of explosive plays for offense. Look no further than the 65 yards of air touchdown to AR. Minshew would have probably need 3 throws to combine for that distance. There were also 2 big plays left off the field, both to rookie wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. That would have been walk-in touchdowns. With more playing time and chemistry with his receivers, I think this offense has the potential to be one of the most explosive offenses in Colts' recent history. The Colts played the Texans, who will have double-digit wins this season. So even though the Colts played bad, and they played bad, there's a lot of light at the end of this tunnel. 49ers versus the Jets. Oh, yeah. This game did not go as expected for Jets fans, but if you were expecting 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an ACL injury to bring back Patrick Mahomes right out of the gate, you are far from the truth on your expectations. His offensive coordinator, Daniel Hackett, is below average at best, and he just refuses to adjust his gameplay no matter the competition in any game. The offensive production in terms of pass catchers comes strictly from one person, Garrett Wilson. His tight ends give no production whatsoever. The Rodgers of old, the one in Green Bay, who could roll out and scramble, is not walking through these tunnels anymore, guys. I mean, technically, he couldn't even do that in his last season at Green Bay, really. The offense for the Jets is not a top-tier offense. Sorry to tell you. Hell, in this division alone, they're not even a top offense. Excluding the Patriots, because they're the Patriots. The Jets are the third best offense in their own division. Let me explain. The Bills have Josh Allen, who makes explosive plays with his legs, his arm, and makes his other weapons better. The Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Waddle, a solid quarterback, great running backs, and an offensive guru as their head coach. The Jets scored 19 points last night, and the one touchdown Rodgers did have was on a free play. Yeah. He was 13 for 21, 167 yards with a touchdown and a pick. The defense for the Jets looked out of their element and completely overmatched at times against the 49ers. San Francisco looked like they could do whatever their hearts desired last night with no regard for the competition. Now, the Jets, they thought they brought in Aaron Rodgers to be the guy, to be the one to fix the organization. The problem is that he couldn't fix the Packers organization, and they basically gave up on him and traded him away to the Jets. They weren't exactly bringing in premier talent on his way out either. But he isn't going to fix this organization. That's not the type of guy he is. He is not that type of savior, so to speak. Yeah, I watched a ton of games over the weekend, as I'm sure you did. The Ravens, Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers, Falcons. I watched all these offenses. The difference between these offenses and the Jets is the huge fact that the Jets don't have any depth at the playmaker positions. The play calling for the Jets was just ridiculously bad. There weren't any good schemes that set up your team for success. It just wasn't there. And I also don't see a top offense, even a top 10 offense at that. I will reiterate the fact that Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old, coming off an ACL injury. This is Aaron Rodgers right now. There's going to have to be a hell of a lot more improvement for the Jets in order to be a top offense. But for now, after week 1, against the top defense, I don't see it. Now, let's get into Brock Purdy. Did you know what his record is as a starter? 18-4. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, right? His passer rating is 113. Now, I've never fully been a fan of this guy, but I recognize what he is. He's not a system quarterback. I feel like that saying is a bit overused. He isn't a game manager either. Good God, you hear that all the time as well. He is a quarterback that stays the course and does what he can within the offense and doesn't go outside of himself. This is a big reason why he's so highly effective. Up and down the roster, it's really ridiculous at this point. And a lot of this team is homegrown. They have the best left tackle ever. This is not up for discussion. They have a backup running back that's good. That just came out of freaking nowhere. You got Jennings, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle. Last night, they didn't even have their best offensive playmaker in Christian McCaffrey. And they destroyed the Jets on every level, every phase of the game. There's literally Pro Bowlers everywhere on this roster. Brock Purdy, though, he does a great job with his efficiency. He stays within himself, finds the open man, throws it to the open man, and then the playmakers do the rest. He is the perfect quarterback for this team and Kyle Shanahan. He can move in the pocket. He doesn't have a ridiculous arm. He's not Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson by any means, but that's not who they need him to be. That's why he's perfect for this team. He executes the plays, stays within himself, makes the right read, executes it to perfection damn near every time, and they are wildly successful because of it. Now, this statement may not be popular, but Shanahan is lucky to have Purdy, and Purdy is lucky to have Shanahan. Because I saw him at Iowa State. I saw what he was at Iowa State against Big 12 competition. And then once a year when they played Iowa. He was accurate sometimes. He didn't read plays very fast. And then his execution on plays wasn't great all the time either. So when I see him presently, he has completely transformed the type of quarterback that he is. Now, let's get back to the Jets. Their schedule is going to start to get really easy. So they won't need Rodgers to tear it up. As long as they play within themselves and just execute. Sound familiar? They have the defense, but man, that defense last night was just paltry, pathetically executed. After week one, the defensive efficiency for the Jets ranks 28th in the league. Yeah, think about that for a minute. You bring in all these guys. I'm thinking they really need Hassan Reddick. Maybe. Yeah, you have a defensive coach as your head coach. Something is going to have to change. That is completely obvious. But great job to the 49ers last night. They completely wrecked them. And I did not see that coming. I thought the Jets were going to at least keep it competitive. Not so much. But the biggest thing that I will take away from last night is the fact that so many broadcasters, so many of the pundits and the media decided to come out and they were just completely shocked that Aaron Rodgers would have this type of game. But it makes sense. He didn't play a lot of the preseason. They don't really have a lot of weapons besides Garrett Wilson. Yeah, they have Breece Hall and Braylon Allen, the backup running back. But they have Conklin at tight end. You're not getting any production. You're not getting any production from him. I think he had one reception last night. Like, it's just not happening. So they're going to have to figure things out. Now, when I say the young quarterbacks in the NFL were bad this week, whoo, they were bad. They were really bad. Caleb Williams and the Bears won just an absolutely improbable game, okay? They won 24-17, and they didn't score an offensive touchdown. This is how bad Caleb Williams was. He was 14 of 29. So a little bit under 50%. For 93 yards. Caleb Williams' first half, he was 8 of 14 for 53 yards. Down 17-3 at the half. Folks, he had a total of 14 completions for 93 yards. That's awful. Completely awful. Per pass attempt, yeah, I didn't have to look it up to know that it was very low. Now, let's just get into Keenan Allen. You know, he was a pretty big acquisition over the offseason. He had 11 targets for 4 catches. And if you go look at the passes from Williams, a lot of them are off. He was terrible, okay? He took a sack. It was like 19 yards back. It took him out of field goal range because one thing about Caleb Williams that not a lot, if you don't watch college football, you wouldn't know this, but I watch a lot of it. So one thing Caleb Williams loves to play is backyard football. And you just can't play backyard football in the NFL. It's not going to work. So they did win. They got lucky on special teams and defense, and the Titans had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. And that last turnover from Will Levis was obviously the most ridiculous thing you will probably ever see. Maybe not. There's probably more ridiculous shit. But you're going down for a sack. Just take the sack. Okay? Just take the sack. But don't throw it up like a complete moron to where it's not going to be an accurate pass. You already know that. And you're just giving the other team who has a pretty strong secondary to just pick it. And that's what happened. Pick 6. All right. Jaden Daniels in Washington. You know, I'll give it to Jaden Daniels. He's bold. I was wrong. I thought they would be able to win. You look at the numbers and you say, oh, okay. 184, 17 of 24. That's not bad. 88 yards rushing. It's kind of got like an Anthony Richardson feel to it. You know, that's a lot of rushing yards, but most of the rushing yards wasn't garbage time. But as we dig a little deeper, because, you know, that's what we do here. 17 completions for Daniels. 8 went to the wide receivers. Everything was checked down to like Brian Robinson. Most of his passes were, there's a saying, check down Charlie. That's what they call it. But a lot of the throws were to Brian Robinson. I mean, just let it jump off, you know? You're going to pass it to Brian Robinson, and you hope that he just takes off, and you're going to go to the other side. You're going to pass it to Austin Eckler. You know, he's going to jump off. You know, he got destroyed on a couple of those hits. Brian Robinson is shifty enough, and you know Washington has no patent to secondary. I mean, could be the worst in the league. But, you know, you saw some flashes from Daniel. Like, he was just terrified to throw the ball downfield. And if you watched LSU last year, that is one thing that he did was throw it downfield. But he is just terrified to throw it downfield. Him and Caleb Williams, same thing. Terrified to throw it downfield. They're just afraid to make mistakes. Which leads us to Bo Nix, the other quarterback, who a lot of people, and I'll just tell you right now, you know, he was 26 of 42. You know, you can go ahead and bang your head against the door, because, you know, there's no reason for a rookie quarterback to be throwing it 42 times. I don't care if your coach is Sean Payton or not. That is not a winning formula. 26 of 42 for 138. Now, this is another quarterback that refuses to throw it downfield because he is terrified of making mistakes. So, the quarterbacks looked bad in week 1. That is what we know. If you really want to boil it down, these quarterbacks looked like Bryce Young in their first year. Like the exact carbon copy. Bryce Young, there was all that talk about coming out of the draft, how Bryce Young was going to be this franchise quarterback, this game changer, this playmaker. Well, if you look at his first game this season, 42-17, he didn't really look that great either. He looked like the same exact player from last season. But you got all the Bryce Young, all that crap people were talking, Well, one thing you can say about all these quarterbacks is they just look like Bryce Young from last year. Yes, Caleb Williams is the first quarterback since 2002 to win his debut. Congratulations, but you still performed horribly. But good job on getting that win. But the thing is, with all of the hoopla coming into the NFL draft, they were already exalting Caleb Williams to be the next home run pick. And he comes out, and it's like, it's his first game, and he throws for 93 yards. He has a 55 passer rating, and his defense and special teams carry him to a win. That's not something to be proud of if you are a Bears fan or if you are a Caleb Williams fan. But maybe this was because it was week 1, and we don't really want to overreact. That's not what we do here. But there were only 2 300-yard passers this past weekend. Matt Stafford, and Tua. And my big question is going to be, how much of this is because quarterbacks don't really want to play in the preseason? Like, they'll play a series here, a series there, and they won't get their chemistry down with their pass catchers or the timing down with their running backs. Is there any correlation there? But it's pretty much the same thing every single year. It usually takes teams about 3 to 4 weeks to ramp everything up, and then everybody's at full strength. Get the playbooks down, got the chemistry, they got their timing down, and that's usually about how long it takes. So although I don't think you can call any of these rookie quarterbacks a bust at this point, there's definitely going to be some growing pains throughout the weeks in order to get their teams on the same page and to get their chemistry down. So go ahead and just sit down, put a drink in your hand, and enjoy the show. Because it's going to be a fun ride. It is time to move on to the talk of the college football world over the weekend. The biggest upset by far was when Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. I didn't cry, I promise. I'm a grown man. Damn. Yeah, when these smaller schools, when they come in, they are paid anywhere from $1.2 million to $1.8 million to play one of the big dogs. Because this game, for the big dogs, is practically considered a lock win by everyone. An easy 20 to 30 point win, and the other team walks away with a big fat check. Thomas Hammock, the head coach of Northern Illinois, coached for the Ravens for a little bit, and he was a former running back for Northern Illinois University and has been the head coach for several years for NIU. They got paid $1.4 million to come in and play Notre Dame. Give you a check. You come in to play. It's a win-win. And not to mention, the NIU Huskies were 30-point underdogs. And Notre Dame last week beat Texas A&M, who had a quarterback who could throw it about as well as me. And then to lose this game, Riley Leonard, man. Riley Leonard has been a massive letdown these first 2 weeks. He played Texas A&M, didn't do a lot there. He played NIU. Let's just run through the stats, okay? Let's see what he did, all right? So, Riley Leonard was 20 for 32. 32 is too many passes for Notre Dame, by the way, for 163 yards. It's a 5.1 average. And he had a 25.8 QBR. Yeah, that's pretty damn bad. Now, Jeremiah Love, their highly coveted running back, carried the ball 11 times for 79 yards. That's a 7.2 yard average. Now, his longest run on the day was 34 yards. My big question is this. Why didn't they run the ball more? That's really what Notre Dame does. I don't know why they're trying to change their offense around so damn much when you have a running quarterback. He's not a passing quarterback. I mean, hell. Notre Dame played Duke last year. They knew what he was then. He's not a passing quarterback. But you're going to rely on this guy who couldn't throw a football in the ocean while he's sitting on a boat. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I did read an interesting article, though. It is about Riley Leonard. You know, Riley Leonard sounds like a great guy. He really does. He's obviously a great runner with the football. But his accuracy issues is absolutely killing the Irish. Notre Dame has a solid amount of weapons. And to be able to only put up 14 points against NIU, not to mention 7 points just in the second half. Yeah, they scored 14 points. 2 touchdowns the entire game. You got to be kidding me. But this is nothing new. Notre Dame lost to fucking Marshall 2 years ago, and this year they lose to NIU. It's got to be one of the worst losses in the history of the world. Not just Notre Dame. Yeah, the history of the world. And no program. They got to just... As a Notre Dame guy, they got to be the most overrated team in college football history. I mean, they really haven't done anything since Lou Holtz. This is 2024, guys. There's no point in even trying... Like, you can't even come up with a conclusion as to why this happened. The Irish just are not good enough. And, you know, it could be for a multitude of different reasons. To me, it's because of the academic requirements. They can't get in the guys that go to Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, or whatever. You know, I get it. Academics are higher than LSU or Alabama. But let's just keep it real here, because that's what we do. Players still want to go to Notre Dame. Prestige or not, they still want to wear that golden helmet. Come on. They still get a top 10 recruiting class every single year. Year in, year out, and it's always a letdown. It's always a Marshall. And now, it's not always a Marshall. Now it's going to be referred to, it's always an NIU. That's what everybody in the world is going to call it now. Oh, man. Michigan got NIU'd. Yeah. But coaching matters. And Marcus Freeman didn't have the Irish ready for the game. Not sure how ready they needed to be, but whatever. 30-point dogs coming into your house. This is Marcus Freeman's fourth loss to an unranked team. Just let that set in. NIU is the biggest underdog to beat them in over 30 years. Well, you want to know something else? I'll give you something else. Since 1978, Notre Dame has been 51-1 as a favorite of at least 25 points entering Saturday. Yeah. You know, perspective is important in life. It really is. And especially when it comes to football. Like body language, right? A lot of people can see who you are as a person when it comes to body language. Or if they want to talk to you that day, or if they don't want to talk to you that day. Body language is important, right? Well, that is going to tell you everything about a player before a game. And when you looked at Notre Dame before they played Northern Illinois, you could see that the players were not prepared. Almost lackadaisical like. It almost looked like they prepared for one game this season. And now Texas A&M, in that game, they looked more physical. They had the right game plan. They just took it to Texas A&M with everything they had. And what happened? They ended up winning that game. It didn't look like they put a game plan together. And they were physically outmatched against a smaller team. I mean, you had one wide receiver for Northern Illinois, Ontario Brown, go 2 receptions for 126 yards. Their running back, Ontario Brown, 20 carries, 99 yards. Like, it was just absolutely pathetic. There was actually one player for Northern Illinois, Devontae O'Malley. He had 2 sacks. Now, I get it. Notre Dame's got a young line, but that can't happen. Especially when you have a mobile quarterback like you do. It's just, this team threw the biggest pile of crap on TV that anybody is ever going to watch. Forget about Appalachian State and Michigan from a few years back. Notre Dame is going to be the butt of every single joke when it comes to an unranked team beating a ranked team. Now, do you ever go to the gym and do leg day? And the following day, people are like, oh, man, yeah, that guy did legs. Just by the way you walk, you got that dead leg going, right? Saturday night, Notre Dame actually looked like they did have dead legs. They were so slow. It was insane. They weren't stopping anything or anybody, as you can see with the stats that I gave you. They had nothing left in their tank to play a 60-minute football game with NIU. I really don't know what Notre Dame did last week to prepare for the game against Northern Illinois, but there's one thing that I can tell you that they didn't do. They did not prepare for Northern Illinois. The Huskies, they took Notre Dame to the woodshed They were like a little brother that got taken to the woodshed and got hit over in the head by a 2x4 over and over and over again. And it is probably the most pathetic showing I have ever seen Notre Dame, any Notre Dame team have. And at some point, a question is going to need to be asked. Is Mark Freeman the right guy for the job? Yes. It needs to be asked. Yes, he can recruit. He was under Brian Kelly. He was that recruiting guy. He can bring in guys. I mean, Jeremiah Love, the running back for the Irish, who was a 4-star athlete. So he can bring in guys. I'm not going to say this is the academic scapegoat. This is somebody needs to take blame for how they play. And this isn't the first time this has happened, as I already told you. So is he the right guy for the job? We know he can recruit, but we don't know much else. He's a defensive guy, so can he draw up schemes? We don't really know that because he doesn't run the defense. He has nothing to do with it. He doesn't run the offense. We know that. That's Mike Denbrock. They pulled Denbrock from LSU, who coached Jaden Daniels last year, breaking records with that offense. And yeah, you got this offense to work with. In Notre Dame, I just don't know if Marcus Freeman can take Notre Dame to the promised land. I don't even know if it's in my future, to be honest with you. But one thing I can tell you is that Notre Dame reminds me of the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Dallas Cowboys fans, this is not a shot, but they really are. You can see a difference between the Dallas Cowboys and Notre Dame. The difference is that the Cowboys have actually won their division. Notre Dame is not, obviously, because they're not in one. And if you put any of the NIU players next to Notre Dame players, I can guarantee you 99% of NIU's roster doesn't get drafted compared to the amount of players that will get drafted from the Irish. This is just an absolutely embarrassing loss for Notre Dame and could quite possibly dash their playoff hopes. But the bigger problem at hand is the fact that Riley Leonard is probably the worst quarterback that Notre Dame has had in the past 10 to 12 years. With the way that he is playing right now, there is no hope whatsoever for Notre Dame even to win 9 or 10 games this season, yet make a playoff. Could they make the playoff? They sure could. But they're going to have to run the table the rest of the way, and even then, it might not be enough. Hell, you could have a 9-3 SEC team take over their spot. So thank you for listening to today's episode of The Burn. And if you have not subscribed to me on YouTube, go ahead and do so and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an episode of The Burn. We got fresh content daily and a podcast a couple times a week. So click that bell icon to keep updated. I thank you for watching The Burn, and I will see you next time.